had the opportunity to have what we call a one-on-one, where we invite another chamber member to sit down and have a conversation to learn more about each other outside of our lives in the chamber. And I spent some time with Barbara. She came to visit me in my office, and her name is Barbara Jones. And she specializes in assisting people finding sometimes what you would call a second career or a second path. Sometimes when you work very hard and build some wealth, you look at investing in a business. And so she has a unique way of meeting with folks who are thinking about that and working with them to find out what the right venue is. So, Barbara Jones.
Thank you very much. Yay. Well, thank you very much, and for the very warm welcome. Thank you, Sylvia, again. This is a great opportunity for me, and I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Barbara Jones. I'm a franchise broker, that's the name, the title, and I am a principal of Franchise Business Freedom. So what I do is I help people with business ownership. And before I go into that, I'd like a show of hands of who has owned their own business or who does own their own business now. So, and of those same people, how many of those people have parents who had their own business? So in our culture, we don't really teach people how to create their own business. And through franchising, it's a sort of a step-by-step. It's much easier for people to get into it without the risk. But it sort of also shows that this is not a demographic of the normal workforce. Because in the normal workforce, they say that only 2% people own their own business. So I knew that there would be more than 2% here. So I know you'll understand what I'm going to be talking about when I start going into this. So I'm going to start with just sort of a broad definition of franchising, which is a way of expanding your business through licensing agreements. That's pretty much all it is. But there are 4 elements to a franchise. And can anybody give me perhaps one of those elements that if you walk into a place that's a franchise, what you see or what you feel? What is, Mike?
It's a copy of other franchises of the same company.
Right, but what do you, is there something you see, Sylvia?
I was just going to say, there's a system in place.
There is a system in place, but part of that system is the logo, exactly, the brand that you see, and then when you see that brand and logo, you think of that experience that you had. So there's a branding, the logo, the name of the company. With it is the operating system, which is what you're talking about. It's something that has been put in place so the franchisee can follow it. And the next part is the system, which also is the training and the support is always has to be there. And it's an ongoing thing. They train you, they train your employees to create that or to have that same memorable experience. Then you walk into a franchise and you see you can walk into a franchise anywhere in the United States or even sometimes in different countries and you know what you're going to expect. Hopefully it's something that you want, not something that's, this is a surprise and a bad surprise. And the other thing, the 4th thing that makes a franchise is a franchisee pays royalties back to the franchisor. Different than your own business. And that can range from 3%, and I've seen it up to 15 to 14% of your gross profits goes back. So what are the values of a franchise? Why would anybody go into a franchise? Because you have to pay those royalties. Is it worth it? So one of the big values is, again, less risk. It's the operations in place. You can see that it's worked before. You follow the model that is there, and chances are you're going to be more successful than not. Is it a guarantee? Absolutely not. There are no guarantees in this life, so nobody's going to guarantee that you are going to be successful. But if you follow the model and you reach out to the franchisor, then the chances are you're going to be much more successful. The other thing that's wonderful about a franchise is that you have all these other franchisees that you can connect to and relate to and talk to them about the problems perhaps you're having. It's not just the franchisor that helps you and supports you, it's the franchisees. They can also help. Other parts that can be of great value are the buying power of a large group. As you know, the more you buy, vendors give you better discounts. And so you can then pass those discounts to your employees and sell your products at a lesser price, but get more people to come in. The other part, another value is what they call a franchise disclosure document. Does anybody have any franchise? Nobody has a franchise here, do they? Oh, what is your franchise, Skip?
The UPS store.
Ah, perfect example. Are these some of the experiences that you've had? I mean, were you happy with your experiences?
Well, I was very happy with it when it was mailboxes, etc.
They bought, UPS bought mailboxes?
UPS bought mailboxes, etc. Incorporated. The company that sold us all the franchise. They have implemented a number of changes that are less palatable.
Well, nothing's perfect. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
And don't forget, when you talk about the franchise fee, the royalties, there's also a whole host of other fees that you end up.
There are advertising fees and marketing fees, and so yeah. But this is also what you would look at and find in the franchise disclosure document. And that's where you, of course it can be very vague there as well. But in this franchise disclosure document that you will get, you will see if the franchise is successful, if it's how many litigations and bankruptcies have been, in the company. And again, it gives you the name and numbers of all the franchisees, so that you can talk to them and reach out and see what their experiences have been like. So why would you use a broker like myself to, or why would you recommend me to somebody if you knew of somebody? If anybody has ever gone on the internet to find something, you know that there are just pages and pages and pages of franchises. If you go in and say, I want to buy a franchise, you'll get pages and pages, and then you'll click on one, and there'll be hundreds and thousands of different franchises that you could click on. Oh, I'm interested in this one. Oh, I'm interested in that one. And how do you really know if it's right for you? Unless you go and investigate, it takes lots of time, and if you make the wrong mistake, it could cost you a lot of money. But what I do is I take you through the process, and I hold your hand, and I'm on calls with you. And I also know the inside scoop on hundreds of franchises. I know which franchises have the franchisee's best interests at heart. I am connected to a company called the Franchise Brokers Association, and if I have any questions, I reach out to them. What about this franchise? What about, oh no, don't go there. They don't have the franchisee's best interests at heart, so I stay away from those. I can help you figure out what sort of, with your finances, what the best, how to go into a franchise. Let's see, I'll just sort of tell you about my process. So when I first get a client, I have to get to know them, obviously, because this is something that's going to be a huge change in their life, and I have to make sure that they are right for a particular franchise. So I ask them many questions. Initially, what is your motivation? Why is it that you're looking for something? Is it because you're tired of the job that you have now and you want something different? Or you've been laid off and you need to find something? Or you want to make an investment and you want to find a manager run franchise? Because there are different kinds of franchises. There's part-time franchises. There's passive franchises where you hire a manager to run the whole thing. You just manage the manager. There's, of course, full-time. There's flex time. All sorts of things. So I need to know what you're looking for. And then I'll ask, what's your background? Franchisors are not going to take people that have no experience. They're not going to take somebody right out of college. They want somebody who has business background, knows how to run their business. can run their own finances, has perhaps marketing skills, sales skills. They train a lot of it, but they want to know that you have some business skills. Then I will talk about who else is going to be involved in the franchise. Skip, did you do this by yourself, or was your, do you have a partner involved, or?
Well, at the time, it was my wife and I.
Right. So I would want to know if somebody else is going to be involved, because when we start talking and explaining about the franchise, I want everybody there that's going to be involved. Because I don't want, wouldn't want Skip's wife to have questions that Skip can't answer, and then at the, just before he's about to make a choice, or, to go forward with this, her saying, no, I'm too scared, I don't want to do this because I haven't had all my questions answered. So I try to get everybody on board so we can ask all the questions as we go along and not have it pulled out from underneath somebody at the very end, because that does happen. And then I will say, what's your time frame? Are you ready to move in the next 3 months? Because franchisors don't necessarily want to talk to somebody who's not ready until next, for a year, because they've got territories. And it's one of the things that I find out, if there's a territory available in your area, and if you really like this franchise, but you're not ready for a year, when you come back, that territory is not going to be there perhaps. So I ask, what's your time frame? And then I also ask, what other franchises have you looked at, and why did you like them, or why didn't you like them? So I'm trying to get an idea of what you want. And then, of course, the big questions, how much money do you need to make? How much money do you want to make? And how much money do you have to invest? Now, 90% of people who invest in a franchise do get some financial help. Either they do a 401k rollover, they get a loan, SBA loan, and I can help people find those. I don't do them myself, but I can direct you to people who specialize in those particular small business franchise loans. So after I find, yes?
Why don't you give us an example of one you highly recommend? What is it? Give us an example of a franchise that you like.
One that I like right now is called 101 Mobility, and it's part of this under the senior care umbrella. As we all grow older, seniors are the biggest growing demographic. And what 101 Mobility does is it's a franchise that helps people stay in their home by installing ramps and lifts. Does he need one now?
No, I do that for free.
You install everything for free?
Yeah.
Wow, you were...
Back to you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anyway, because it's a little fragmented, and this is a nationwide, and you can get great prices on it, and they try to connect you to VAs who then support you, and then you get more recommendations. That's one that I think is
so. Really for example, what would be the financial commitment to that kind of franchise?
That would
be so much money up front.
Well, there's always a franchise fee, which helps for the training and so forth. And I think the franchise fee for that one is about $35,000.
$35,000?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then to all in, that's what I look at. I mean, all in is I think around $200,000.
Wow. You mean the upfront cost?
No. Well, if as you go along within that year. It could be if you're going to open up your own Mobility 101 Mobility. You can either open your own. You can do it at home for a year, or you can.
I'll sell mine for $50,000.
We can franchise you.
Zero.
Because he chooses, right, to charge nothing.
So this is $200,000 in addition to this.
$200,000 all in.
Percentage. In addition to the percentage of the profits?
Your royalties, the net gross profits, yeah.
And what do they get for that?
The $200,000 gets you the privilege of paying royalty, which comes after you pay the $200,000.
So they go to school, they get some training. What else do they get for $200,000?
They get continuous training. They get all the marketing. They get their websites. They get everything. You're replacing time with money, and they do all. And it's not. And they also do a lot of research and development. I mean, Skip didn't like the research and development of the UPS, but you do.
No, that's not what I said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I said that what happened that after UPS bought the corporation, they gradually implemented changes in the way of the operation of the whole business, which was not what really was attractive about the business when I got into it.
Yeah, it does change.
And a little thing about these franchise agreements, as you go through these research and development enhancements and new improvements and new procedures and whatnot, new products or whatever, well, you have to modify your franchise agreement to accommodate these new changes.
Absolutely.
And what comes in on the underside of that modification are these other little things like shrinking your territory or new requirements that you have to fulfill. So it's an ongoing thing.
It is an ongoing thing, and it is. Hold on, but it is it's in the agreement. There's not going to, if you don't read the agreement and you don't have a franchise lawyer look at your agreement, you have to do that. I highly recommend that. And
absolutely. But what happens is when they make they develop a new product line, for example, a new service, and you sign your agreement to modify your franchise. You have to modify your franchise agreement to incorporate this new product line. But hidden in that modification changes some of what was there before. So you go through the whole thing every time there's a new product. You have to look at all the changes that they're implementing.
Absolutely.
And then the sneaky one is when they say, oh, and by the way, you have to follow the operations manual. And that's subject to change at any time, if there will.
Well, yeah, and
so you have to be careful.
Yeah, you do have to be careful. And I sort of try. I haven't represented UPS. I have those more emerging markets, and those are also franchises where you can negotiate a lot more than you can with 7-Eleven or and then you can also grow much more with them. So I'm sorry, you had a question.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, okay, good. So it is very important that you look at these franchise agreements, and a lot of people who complain about these things, they made us do this and this. Well, they didn't look at the franchise agreement. That, or they didn't have a lawyer look at them. I mean, you can't just have any lawyer look at them. You really have to have a franchise lawyer look at them. Of course, that's another cost. But the great thing about the process is that you get to talk to franchisees. And that's part of what I do, is I make sure people call the franchisees. I've got tons of questions for them to say, is this something you would do again? Is this worth it to you? What are your biggest challenges? Do you think that the franchisor is supporting you, and like they said they would? You don't go into it with your eyes, shut. You do your due diligence, and I want to make sure you do your due diligence. So,
what is your fee?
I don't get. I have no fee. I get paid by the franchisor when my clients sign on, and I'm not. I'm not married to any franchisor. I don't like one more than the other. It's what my client, wants that's important to me. So I don't get paid until my clients get paid. So that's I'm the advocate for you to find the best thing. Yes.
You also handle what's known as licensed agreements. I once owned one of those. It was less than a franchisee, but it allowed me to use all the trademarks of this. It was only in the service industry, so there's no products. So, but the license agreement is fairly common.
Yeah, well, I don't do that. Yeah, you'd have to probably go to the company to do that. Yeah.
That's in real estate, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There are some real estate franchises, but yeah.
Like commercial.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure. So I do take my clients through this process. I have them fill out information that help me and help the franchisor figure out what sort of culture you like to work in. If you're, a fast-moving director who wants to take charge of this, or are you sort of more laid back and like to think about all the different things because we're all different, and we all like to work in a culture that is something that we can relate to. So that's another thing that I try to make sure my clients get into. I have access to, sort of similar to real estate MLS, which is called an FLS. we call it franchise link system. So I put into that, how much money you have to put into it, what kind of lifestyle you want, what are industries, and it populates a bunch of different franchises. And then I go in and take a look at them and figure out which one would be best for you, in my estimation, with your background, your values. And then I present those to you. I present probably about 4 at a time to see if you like them. We rank them. Then we start talking to the franchisors, and I have questions to give you, to ask those franchisors. They get to know you. Just because you want a franchise and you have the money doesn't mean you're going to get the franchise. It has to be awarded to you. So I help you qualify, and we both move through the process. We talk to the different franchisees, and maybe even past franchisees. Franchisees that have just started, franchisees that have been there for a while, and franchisees, and you're going to get all sorts of different people talking to you. And just because you get one person who's not happy doesn't mean that franchise isn't for you. But it's a great way to compare yourself, get to know those people. Am I like that person? Could I do what they're doing? Could I be successful as they are? Or is it worth it? It's a process, a journey that I try to take my clients through, sort of a discovery. And hopefully, at the end, there's also, did you go to a discovery day for mailboxes, etc.?
A discovery day?
Yeah, now franchises have what they call a discovery day. Once everybody has been talking to each other for a while, you get to go to where their training headquarters is. And then you get to meet people, those franchisors, face to face. And that's, I think, also something that's nice to connect, human to human, flesh to flesh. And you sort of see what a day in the life of a franchisee is, and you see where you'd be trained, and you go through all of that. And then if everybody still likes each other, then the franchisor will award you a franchise, and then you either sign it or you don't sign it. At that point, no money has been exchanged until you do that, and then once you sign it and hand them their franchise fee, then I get paid. But I'm still there with you and want my clients to succeed, and hopefully start a new life that they can take control of, and make it a little different, be in more control. Because if you want a job, how many people here have been laid off? Yeah.
We're fired.
Fired. It's not fun. It's nice to be. It's nice to be in control, somewhat control. Is anybody ever in control? No. But anyway, thank you very much for this opportunity. Oh, yes, you have a question.
What would you say is the #1 category that of all the businesses you put together?
Well, senior care is really growing, and so is educational tutoring is really big these days. So, and it does change, and it changes in different demographics.
I have a question.
Yes.
How long do you work with your clients? Is it like?
Usually about 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Yes.
How many of the franchises you broker are resales?
I have a few people that have wanted resales. There's one in Big Frog T-shirt. There was a resale, and that's another thing. You need to, when you go into it, a franchise, you need to know what it's going to take to get out of it. Can you pass it along to your family? You can build a legacy, and those are things that you have to look at in the FDD. And the emerging franchises are much more likely to make those negotiations and so forth. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Barbara.
Thank you.
Raffle time. And bowling for business is coming up. It is on May 26th. Who's interested in bowling?
Well, I don't know, but I want to go.
Okay. So a team is 5. So anybody interested in bowling? We're putting a team together. This is on May 26th. What day is that?
Thursday.
It's on a Thursday. Thursday night, May 26th. Okay, I'll send it out to the membership, and then I'll have, if anybody's interested, Sylvia, I'll have them contact you.
Okay, great.
Okay? Raffle time. Good there. Glenn, can you pick one?
Want me to read the last three numbers or all?
Yeah, last three.
Last three numbers are 358.
Was that say no, please?
358.
It's 6.
Okay.
You draw your own ticket.
Who's got
No,
nine?
I didn't.
358.
Must be present.
That must be it.
It's me.
Okay. Oh, Mikey.
Thank you, Glenn.